Hello again. I sometimes get the impression that those who advocated so strongly against integration or assimilation for immigrants to Britain and in favour instead of multiculturalism thought that this would somehow manage to create a wonderful society which would look a bit like Norman Rockwell's painting, The Golden Rule, which may be seen in the thumbnail to this video. Everybody would retain his or her own ethnic identity, way of dressing, language, food, religion and national customs, while at the same time fitting in with and respecting everybody else's individual identities. Well, that worked well, didn't it? As anybody who has ever lived in the real world might have guessed, the actual consequence has been the fragmentation of society and the emergence of various small statelets which give one the impression of visiting a foreign country when moving about London. Rather than a diverse society where everybody mingles together and takes pleasure in partaking of other people's cultures, we've seen the balkanisation, or as some prefer to call it, the ghettoisation of the capital city. The central London district of Tower Hamlets, for instance, is a distinctly Muslim territory run by Siletis and Pakistanis. Black people tend not to feel welcome here and indeed are viewed with suspicion. This has not been helped by the fact that some black criminals from South London, who are a bit behind the times, still have the idea that people from South Asia are a soft touch and can be robbed with impunity. This resulted a couple of months ago in a black guy having his hand amputated in Whitechapel by Muslim vigilantes. Yes, you did hear that right. There are vigilantes operating in London who enforce the Quranic injunction of chopping off the hands of thieves. In the description to this video, I give a link to a newspaper article on this unfortunate incident. This then is what London has been reduced to. Some parts ruled by Caribbean gangsters, or warlords as we sometimes call them, and from such strongholds their men make raids across the river into a Muslim territory where the code of the Quran and Hadith are enforced. In Tower Hamlets, girls in short skirts have been accosted by vigilantes in order to cover up. People sipping cans of beer have been told that this is a Muslim area where such behaviour is forbidden, and these injunctions have been placed on lampposts warning visitors that they are in a Sharia zone. These posters, by the way, warn that alcohol is not tolerated, nor gambling, nor does anybody want to be hearing any music or anything. The London Borough of Newham is also a Muslim area, while in nearby Ilford there are many Muslims, but also quite a few Hindus. Seven Kings, which lies between Ilford and Romford, or I should say between Ilford and Goodmayes and Chadwell Heath, is a Sikh district, of course. Forest Gate, a few miles west, is a Black African and Caribbean zone. I'm sure that viewers have heard of the so-called postcode wars. These awful events are a natural continuation of the tendency of the capital to be split up into small areas which are defined by ethnic fault lines. The postcode war is a subdivision of a predominantly black area into smaller pockets consisting of a single postcode. In Hackney, for instance, those living in E8 might be reluctant to venture into the N16 postal area, which covers the streets towards Stamford Hill. Stamford Hill itself is, of course, an Orthodox Jewish area, and they too have their own vigilantes known as the Shomrim. At one time, the black kids in Dalston used to come down on the rob, seeing the Jews as an easy target. Not these days, because the Shomrim are pretty ruthless in defending their territory. In this way, what was once a single city with a single identity has split up, just as the former country of Yugoslavia did after the death of Marshal Tito. For now, the friction consists chiefly of skirmishes such as drive-by shootings and the occasional hand being amputated. But these incidents are increasing in both frequency and savagery. I remember 50 or 60 years ago, and the situation now is so grotesque that I cannot imagine that anybody would deliberately have engineered it. In those days, one could travel from Ilford to Romford, or in the other direction to Manor Park and Forest Gate, and there was not the slightest difference in culture or ethnicity between any of those areas. London was a single city with a single ethnicity and a single culture. It was utterly peaceful. I don't think that those who allowed unrestricted immigration thought that this would be the result, any more than those who urged the wonders of the multicultural society realised for a moment that it would end in the destruction of a city and its mutating into a collection of tiny fiefdoms and districts ruled by another religion. These people were perhaps not students of history, or they might have asked themselves what went wrong in India at partition, or Cyprus, Nigeria, Lebanon, or Israel for that matter.